tomorrow in Las Vegas. How good is this UNLV team in your mind? We know they're ranked. We know they're unbeaten. Are they legitimate in your mind?
Yeah, I think in the modern era of college football and how rosters are constructed, it's you can break the mold, right? UNLV doesn't have a great deal of football success in its history, but a lot of that goes out the window when you can acquire bits and pieces as free agents, and that's what they've done. They have a lot of quality players that have transferred in from elsewhere. They've followed their coaches coming in, whether it's the head coach Barry Odom, the offensive coordinator, and that type of thing. So they've put together players that maybe fell out of favor or were out of the rotation due to injury or what have you at other schools, and they've come on and had success. And they've had a few homegrown players that have blossomed as well. So this is a pretty decent football team with at least a lot of good individuals, and so far so good. They've been playing great.
Yeah, and they're scoring a lot of points, averaging better than 45 points per game, ranked 10th in the country in scoring offense. And it seems like it's a difficult offense to stop, right? They've got that triple option look. They throw out of it. They've got some downfield threats, but they can also run the ball. They've got a dual threat quarterback. What stands out to you about this offense?
Well, all of those things. I think they've been very effective. The fact they rallied around the quarterback switch, it's apparent, certainly in retrospect, they put up 59 points against Fresno State. It's apparent that the coaching staff wasn't exactly leaping at the ankles of Matthew Sluka and trying to keep him from exiting. So they're very comfortable with Hajj Malik Williams. They have two, at least, outstanding wide receivers. They've run it by committee. The defense is good, so they've got a lot going for them right now.
You know, you mentioned Matthew Sluka, so I'll ask you about that. And we talked to you about Matthew Sluka last week, but the fact that he left, there were a lot of questions about how would they react against Fresno State, and they obviously came out and they played great. And you see that sometimes, right? You see like a significant player goes down with a torn ACL or whatever, and the team rallies, and then that next game they're really good, they're really sharp, and then there's a little bit of a hangover after that. Do you anticipate that might be the case here, where the team just rallied together, they were really fired up, they lose their quarterback, they rallied around the new quarterback, they win the game? Do you think there's any sort of drop-off, I guess, from UNLV from an energy perspective going into this game tomorrow night?
I don't know. It's hard to say that. The thing I would just say from a distance, the observation is that UNLV is the type of program in the type of community that doesn't have that kind of buoying factor, the push-up that you would get. Like if you the way you just laid it out, Steve, if you're talking about that and it referred to Auburn, okay, they're going to come back and there's going to be a packed stadium and they get all this support or feel like they're pulling. UNLV just doesn't strike me as that,
right.
And I listened to Matt a minute ago. I mean, obviously we're in Vegas. You don't get a sense here that there's a big game tomorrow night. They've got events going on all the time that are a little bit bigger than Mountain West Conference football, and they play clearly in a beautiful palatial stadium that hosts the Super Bowl, and I think it's going to be like we went to Tulane a couple of years ago. It won't be quite this bad, but went to Tulane, and nobody cares about Tulane football in the big dome, and you could have many thousand fans and it still feel empty. I think this one won't be quite like that. It'll probably, the atmosphere-wise, I'm thinking it's probably going to be more like the Texas Bowl. You're in
Sure.
Houston, and it's stadium holds 70,000, and you got 25 there or something. And I hope Matt is right. I hope there is 40,000 and up, and I hope it's a great crowd. But I guess what I'm getting at is I don't know that UNLV has this great, roar of support that works against that letdown. I also don't know that they're susceptible to the letdown.
Yeah.
Why would you think that? They've been playing great so far. They've answered every challenge. They've taken on a pretty ambitious schedule. They have 4 power conference teams on the schedule this year, albeit teams that are generally lately have been at the bottom end of the league. But they've knocked them down so far, so every reason to think that'll continue.
All right, let's talk about Syracuse here and a couple of things that fans are concerned about. One of those things is Oronde Gadsden. Last 2 games are combined 3 catches. Big deal or not a big deal?
I don't think it's that big a deal right now. I think the best part of the offense is when the quarterback, who's a veteran, is reading what he sees and taking what the defense gives, and you can't go broke making a profit and that kind of thing. Just moving the ball down the field, and the chunk plays will materialize. I think he can get into bad habits when Kyle predetermines who he's going to throw to or locks it in. So in other words, if you felt like you had a Rondé problem and now you've got to force feed it to a Rondé, I don't know that's a real positive either. So, he's a great matchup. He's going to create matchup problems in most situations, and you look for him and you hope it's there and go to your guy. But I think there's bigger plays to be had potentially on the perimeter, and I think it'll work its way out. They're hampered a little bit now at the wide receiver position when Zeke Haynes unavailable. Emmanuel Ross is supposed to be an explosive type option as a freshman, although he hasn't, gotten on track. He's unavailable. Justice Ross Simmons, I believe, will play in this week's game. I think at least that's the indication from Coach Brown early in the week. So those guys can step up and provide more. I think it's kind of a balance, and it will change week to week. If Jackson Meeks is the guy that's open enough against Holy Cross to tear them up for 160 yards, well, maybe in this game he doesn't, and somebody else does.
All right, let's talk about two other areas of concern. The kicking game, 0 for 3 last week. They had a field goal blocked. They had a field goal blocked against Georgia Tech. How concerned are you about that unit?
Yeah, it's pretty concerning. I think that in my observation against Holy Cross, it really came down to the kicks themselves. I think the plays were clean. You just got to make the kicks. You can't kick it 12 feet off the ground. It's got to go. It's got to go. And I guess 12 would be enough to get over the upright if it made it all the way, right? But it's generally not going to. So there's a competition there. I think the coaching staff, you prefer to have a stud, of course, but second to that, to have competition among 2 or 3 guys, at least, should in theory bring out the best of them. I think you're dealing probably with just a concentration issue. The way that Brown phrased it early in the week, we've got to make them secure. I mean, what I read between the lines there was that the kickers are a little gun shy, thinking that maybe something's going to be blocked because they have been. So you got to forget that. That's not your part. Your part of the play is to put your head down and drive through the kick and make the kick. So it's got to come together. But, yeah, special teams has not been a spot of glory yet this year. And
then the last one I wanted to hit was offensive line, right? 5 sacks against Holy Cross. The running game's been inconsistent. It's been spotty. How concerned are you about that group?
Well, you always have some concern there because everything is connected to the line. I think they have some decent players that just, for right now, have not it's just not been a standout unit so far. I don't think it's been horrible either. Against Holy Cross, I think there were a couple nicks early in the game that sort of prompted some shuffling of the positions earlier than they anticipated, and that's going to have some effect there. So I think that kind of goes away this week. I don't think those injuries were more serious. I will be keeping an eye on Mark Petrie at guard, and see if he, if he's full go. Just because an injury to any one of those players kind of impacts 4, 5, 6 guys potentially, because you want to see them as a unit. So, obviously keep an eye on it. UNLV has talented players that'll be coming after the quarterback for sure, and the offensive line, even if you have a week where you felt like they played great, is going to be a concern all the time because it's so important to what goes on.
I just got one thing for you, Matt. Coach Brown said on his show this week that Will Nixon's banged up and they'll miss him for a while. I don't think fans knew what to expect when he announced that he was transferring to Syracuse, but after that first game, he's been the second guy behind LaQuint Allen. With him being out for a while, what does that do to the offense? Is LaQuint going to get more of those carries, or are they going to give Willis the ball more? Because Willis and Nixon are 2 different types of backs, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think it's Willis is the answer in the short term, largely because LaQuint is so versatile. So I think they can have two on the field at the same time. They love LeQuint on third down. He's a pass blocker. He can be motioned out into the slot as a receiver. LeQuint's not going to see his usage diminished. When I say usage, I guess I mean in the larger sense that, you know, he can be on the field and they can throw it to somebody else, but he's going to be an option all the time, I think. Everybody knows he's one of their very best players. With Nixon out, you know, Sin's got to get it going a little bit. I based on what we saw in the spring game, I thought, you know, here's Herschel Walker part 2 coming, you know,
yeah.
And he hasn't really done that yet. So he's got to kind of earn his keep a little bit, and there's the opportunity for it with Nixon out right now.
All right, Matt, let's hear how you think this game is playing itself out. Who wins tomorrow night and why?
You know, I really don't know. I'm not a gambler, really. I'm not a big predictor. I think both teams have the ability to score. Jordan rattled off the numbers there and the over-under. I mean, obviously, all these buildings out here that I'm looking at, they didn't build them by being wrong. So, you know, maybe it is. Is it 32-28? I think it really could go either way. So let's see if the guys can kind of bring it together. You know, to me, Syracuse right now, where they missed, they're just a step short. They haven't finished. You know, UNLV has finished. They deserve the 4-0 record. They could very well be 5-0 after this one. But, you know, let's see if the guys get it together and can make one more play and hang on.
All right, should be a good one. 9 o'clock Eastern time kick out there in Las Vegas.
I got to do it, Steve.
Yeah.
Matt, I'm sorry, but I know you listen in. Before that last segment, had you ever heard of Kai Cenat?
I didn't listen to the last segment.
Oh, have you heard of him?
I was doing something. That's the person. He's on the commercial with Snoop about Mahomes or something, right?
He's like a Twitch streamer, but yeah, he's got the commercial too. But okay, see,
that's the only way I would ever have come across that name, just because I watch a lot of. He's on they advertise on Red Zone, and I watch a lot of football, and it comes up there, but I couldn't pick him out of a lineup and don't know why he's famous.
That's okay. You're doing better than Steve. He didn't know. I appreciate it.
Matt essentially didn't know. Like,
no. He.
I mean, he knew, but
he picked something he did. That's something.
I was going to say he didn't know why he's like. I
Nobody
didn't know
knows. He just streams on Twitch and yells.
All right. All right. Well, Matt, good stuff. Have a good call tomorrow, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good, guys.
All right. Voice of the Orange, Matt Park, joining us here on the program. And with that, we'll hit our final timeout. We'll